Okay, welcome. My name is Jared Schilling with The Business Technician. We are a small business consulting firm in the greater Salt Lake City area. Today, I wanted to do a little overview of the three key differentiators of radical marketers. So I've been rereading this book, Radical Marketing by Sam Hill and Glenn Rifkin. And it's a great book that does 10 case studies on some companies that we would consider radical marketers. So they weren't the Procter and Gambles or the Coca-Colas that had tens of $1 millions in marketing budget to sell you Crest toothpaste. These are things like the Grateful Dead, Harley Davidson, IAM's pet food company, and the interesting, unique ways they got really creative since they didn't have a lot of resources, right? They didn't have a lot of human capital. They didn't have the money, maybe the time to do all the things that the big firms can do. And so I thought this would be really helpful for small businesses. I highly recommend getting the book and reading the whole thing. Today, I just wanted to go over what the three key differentiating characteristics are of all these 10 case studies they did, and maybe this will help you in your business as you try and grow it and kind of brand and get the identity of your business. So what are the three key differentiators? Well, number one, radical marketers have very strong visceral ties with a specific target audience. So they have an intimate understanding of their customer base. Number two, radical marketers tend to focus on growth and expansion rather than on profit taking. So they're thinking long term. Number three, radical marketers tend to be very resource constrained and are forced to make do with marketing budgets that are far smaller than average. I would say not just the finances in the budget piece, but also like how many people you have working for you. Maybe you're a solopreneur, so you just have your time, and how much free time do you have? So it's not just resource constrained from a money perspective, it's also time and people. So let's start with the first one here, which is having visceral ties with specific target audience. And so it's really about not just understanding customers from a demographic level. So big companies might look at a lot of data to say, this person has this level of income, this gender, they have this level of education, they live in this area, they drive this car. Like nowadays, there's so much data, but it still doesn't help you intimately understand that person that's walking through the door of your small retail shop. Or if you're a solo therapist, like who is that person coming to you for help? Or if you're an electrician, like what type of customers do you really want, right? I mean, even in the residential space, let's talk about like trade service businesses. So plumbers, HVAC, electricians, general contractors. Are you working in mobile home parks? Are you working in 2,500 square foot homes? Are you working in big communities where all the homes look the same? Are you working on $20 million mansions, right? Like these are all different customer bases and they all have something different that you need to understand about them. So this is also something we talk about in marketing, known as the rifle versus the shotgun approach. So the rifle approach is getting very specific and having a very specific archetype of the type of customer and client you want to go after versus the shotgun approach, whereas you're trying to be everything to everyone. And if you think about any successful big business in the world today, there isn't any business that's successful that is everything to everyone, right? I mean, even Walmart, there's very specific people that shop only at Walmart or love shopping at Walmart. There's also very specific people who will do anything not to shop at Walmart, right? And there's no right or wrong or good or bad, but it's just an understanding that like every business caters to some type of archetype. And they may have a few different ones, right? They may have a few different types of customers they go after. But if you're new and you're small, don't spend so much time trying to be everything to everyone, right? I mean, just because you have really good SEO, let's say, and you somehow manage to land on the top 3 results on Google if someone's searching for you, is that the type of client and customer you want? Or would your time be better spent trying to figure out who that customer is that you relate to the most and trying to figure out ways to go after them specifically? The book talks about IAM's pet food company. And so Clay, who was the owner, he eventually purchased the company from Mr. IAM's and was the CEO of the company. He did some really unique things. To him, the customer was the dog and the cat. It was not the dog and cat owner. And he was very big about talking about that. So what he did is his idea was like, if we sell the highest quality, best pet food, and the dogs are healthier, they have shinier coats, brighter eyes, stronger teeth, then owners will realize they need to have IAM's pet food. So what he would do is spend his time with veterinarians, or he would go to breeders and give them free samples and the veterinarians free samples. And over time, it was all about quality and focusing on the dog and the cat and not the owner, which at the time is what Purina was doing. And so that made Iams, I mean, today it's a well-known pet food brand, but back in the 80s, like no one knew what it was. And their focus was on quality and the actual consumer of the product, which was really interesting. One of the things I like to do with small businesses is create these journey maps. So we can see like every touch point from originally meeting the client all the way to making them what I would like to call like an evangelist for the product, where they're sending, all they can do is talk about our business and then send us referrals. I mean, if you can get to that point where you have a customer you intimately understand and becomes this person that goes out and talks about your business, that is the best marketing you can ever have. But that requires you to be really specific. And it can be hard when you're starting out because you just want to get money in the door and get revenue, but you may find yourself spinning your wheels when you could take a little time to step back and focus on that very specific customer that you viscerally and intimately understand. So that's number one. Number two here is focus on growth rather than profit. So it's about thinking long-term, playing the long game. Jim Koch, the co-founder of Boston Beer Company, is a really good example of this. So what he would do, and he was a big-time consultant at the Boston Consulting Group, I believe, and he left there, which was a high-paying job, to try and co-found this craft beer business, which at the time, craft beers, I think like hundreds of them had gone under because it just wasn't working. Anheuser-Busch was the behemoth in the industry, and they were beating everyone. But in Jim Koch's mind, he just thought if he could sell 5,000 barrels of beer in the first 3 to 5 years, he'd be successful. Now, 5,000 barrels of beer, even back when he started this company, I mean, Anheuser-Busch could brew that much in an hour. So we're not talking about a whole lot, but like what Jim would do is he would go directly to the bars and talk to the bartenders. He would talk to the customers. And none of this necessarily immediately sold, Sam Adams beer is the most probably well-known beer of the Boston Beer Company. He wasn't out there selling them, but he was selling the brand, selling the idea. And he would go and kind of plant this little kernel in the bartender's head. So when anyone asked for a beer and they didn't want a Budweiser or a Bud Light or whatever, they wanted something different and special, all the bartender could think about was, Samuel Adams from Boston Beer Company, because Jim Koch came in here and talked about this, right? And so that was him thinking the long game. Some other kind of things you can think about is, and I would say too, this does require a lot of determination, right? Like Jim had to do this for a long time without necessarily getting revenue in the door immediately. So you have to have that determination to keep on going, even when it may feel like it's not working. But something, if you're an HVAC company, let's say, it costs, I don't know what the prices are today, probably roughly $150 minimum just to send a service guy out, which he may just flip a breaker for somebody because that's all that's required. But, there's workers' comp, there's hourly salary, there's the vehicle, the gas. I mean, it costs a lot to send someone out. What if you were the HVAC guy on the block? You're the owner and you walk down and Mrs. Smith, right? She has a problem with the AC and you can walk down there. It doesn't really cost you anything. And when it's something as simple as, flipping a switch here or there, that would cost $150 normally to send someone out to the house for, you can do that. And you just become known as this guy on the block that does this HVAC stuff. Like that carries how great your business is known for and what you're known for way further than if you put a flyer in the paper. Like nobody knows what XYZ HVAC company does. But the people on the street, they're going to be talking about you. They're going to talk about, John, the HVAC guy on the block, like he did this for me. He's so good. He's so kind. He's so helpful. And that can help build your brand. There isn't immediate revenue or profit there, but it's kind of getting your name out there. One thing I would do years ago when I was doing some consulting work in Florida is do junior achievement. So it was a great way for me to get out there, be helpful to the high schoolers that want to get into business and entrepreneurship. Plus I got to practice my craft. And, I'm not there to try and get business. I don't know what high schooler is going to hire me to do consulting work for them, but like, it's just out there and getting the name out there, getting better at your craft and, really just showing up and being useful, I feel like, to the world in some way can really, really help you play the long game there. And so one thing, you can do is kind of build a 90-day action plan. Sometimes it can be really hard for people to want to put together a 5 to 10-year plan. But what if we can say, what are we going to do in the next 90 days to play the long-term game rather than running around like chickens with their head cut off, answering every phone call, going after every service call, helping every single person? Like, can we get a little bit focused here on what are the things we can do to really drive business in the long term? So that 90-day action plan, it's digestible and also usable for the business. So I kind of like going with the 90-day thing. Number three is resource constraints drive innovation. So let's talk a little bit about that one. Now, this is my funnest of all the things to do, and this is where you can get really creative. But in order to get to this step, you have to first really have step one, which is intimately understanding who your customer is so you can focus on them. And then to know to play the long game and not try and Mickey Mouse around with quick little things that are going to get me business here. Like, how can I build the brand and the identity over time for that specific customer or client that I'm going after? And this is a really interesting quote in the book. They were talking about the Grateful Dead, and I forget who it was that was talking about it, but his quote was, the dead aren't the best at what they do. They're the only ones who do what they do. So if you know this one customer really intimately, this archetype of who you're going after, and you can be not just the best at what you do, but the only one who does what you do for that specific customer, you're going to be unstoppable as long as you deliver a good product. And this requires focus, creativity, and willingness to innovate. And so I had a marketing professor who used to talk about kaleidoscope thinking. So if you remember when you were a little kid, you have this kaleidoscope and you know the light comes through and you turn it and it changes the mirrors and the glass in there. And you're looking at the same thing, but as you turn it, you see something differently. And that's what we want to do with our resources. We're resource constrained. So how can we use the resources we have today, right, and mix them around in different ways? The little bit of money we maybe have, the little bit of free time we have over here, the couple employees we have over here, maybe some companies we're working with where we do joint ventures together. One thing I was thinking about is, you know, let's say you're a local coffee shop, right? And you want to, Starbucks used to call this thing surprise and delight. I don't know if they still do it, but just you'd randomly do something nice for a customer. Well, what if you partnered with a local bakery who's just getting started and you all decided that you're going to hand every 10th customer something this next Saturday and Sunday, a free bakery item from this other bakery. And it's going to be labeled with their logo. Everyone's going to know where it came from, and you're going to give it out for free. And maybe the bakery gives you a little bit of a deal on it, so you're just paying cost. And it's a win-win for everyone, right? Your customer's like, oh, wow, I'm going to get a free croissant or a free muffin today. They're going to bite into it. They're going to love it. They're going to say, where does this thing come from? And you say, oh, it comes from the bakery down the street. We sell really good coffee and we know coffee and that's what we want to stick with. But if you want something delicious and that's edible, go down to the bakery, ABC Bakery down here. They do it the best. It's a win-win for everyone and it costs very little money. And really, there's no time investment there. It's just about understanding what you can do with resources and getting really creative about it. So it's that kaleidoscope thinking. This is another good example I'll give of Jim Koch that's in the book about Boston Beer Company, where if you ever go to restaurants and they have those kind of triangle or like tent cards on the board that are like menu cards, and they may say like what the daily special is every day or like what's going on that month. Maybe it's like St. Patty's Day or whatever, Halloween. They've got stuff going on all month. So what he did originally was he went to these bars and said, well, like I'll pay for these. I'll print these for you. And hey, we're just going to put the Sam Adams logo on it. And what a great way to get out there. The restaurant's like, sure, we need those anyway. And he printed really high quality ones and gave it to him for free. And then there's his logo. It's a win-win for everyone. And what did it cost him? Some printing costs, right? This isn't having to put a $200,000 spot on a billboard on a freeway, hoping someone sees your beer and then is going to order it at a restaurant or a bar that actually serves it. Like, it's really genius thinking. Another one that they talk about in the book is Harley Davidson. And so there was a time there in the 80s when they were just crushing it. And they couldn't keep up with the demand of their product. Now, anyone who's studied business knows that growth can actually kill a business. If you grow too fast and you can't keep the product or service quality and the experience for the customer high enough, you will destroy your brand. So what Harley did is they said, well, let's stop doing the marketing. Like we've got more demand than we have supply. And they took that money and invested it all in production so that they didn't cut corners on production to try and get the motorcycles out faster. So they kept the same quality, they met the demand needed, and everyone was happy. And when you have happy customers, they buy more, they refer you more, right? All of this is all about like, how do we get the customer to be our evangelist? That all they can talk about is how much they love our product. And Harley Davidson is obviously a wonderful example of this, right? Like people that buy Harleys don't just buy Harleys, they buy the jacket and the shirts and the boot, all this stuff, right? Like they're all about Harley Davidson, and there couldn't be a better motorcycle on planet Earth than the Harley. So it's a great thing. And this is where you can get really fun and creative. And this is where I would highly suggest, like, whether you hire someone professionally or you talk to family and friends, like, again, it can be really hard when you're running around like crazy, trying to put fires out here and here, to take the time to sit back and do this kaleidoscope thinking, to do creative things. So, maybe you ask family and friends to help, or, someone that's been successful in doing creative things, like, hey, what do you think? Like, this is what I'm stuck with. Like, how can we do this differently? It's not always about, let's go get a loan so we can get more money and spend more money. That's another key part of this radical marketing is we're resource constrained. Let's get creative and be successful with it. So we'll just do a little bit of bringing it all together here. So here's what we want to focus on, right? Leverage your direct connection with customers to understand their needs and build your marketing around solving their specific problem. Not everything to everyone, specific problem for a specific archetype of a customer. 2, think long term. Create a simple strategic plan for sustainable growth. I'm not the world's greatest planner. I don't always love doing it, but it is vital to successful businesses, right? We want to know when we wake up in the morning, at least for the most part, like, what are we going to do today? And when it comes to sales and marketing, it can be real easy to push it to the side if we don't have a plan for it. And that's why I really like that 90-day plan. Again, it's digestible and easy enough to do. Number 3, embrace your resource constraints. Get creative with the kaleidoscope thinking. It's really a lot of fun when you can start finding unique ways to do things. And so to wrap it up here, the 3 key differentiators, again, of the Radical Marketing book, I highly recommend it you get. It's been really fun to read. I'm going to kind of make this a series and keep talking about some case studies and things in the book. But number 1, have visceral ties with a specific target audience that you understand intimately. Make them the evangelists of the company. 2, focus on growth rather than on profit. Play the long game. 3, resource constraints drive innovation. Have some fun with it. Stop doing the same things everyone does, right? Doing the same things, if you've been doing it for a long time, you're just going to keep getting the same results. Try and get creative. Try and do fun things. Ask people for help. See what they've done. Connect with other people that are horizontal in your industry. Like, what are they doing? Like the coffee shop and the bakery. Maybe it's an electrician with a plumber. Like, how can you guys help each other? There's a lot of ways to do this. You just have to get really creative with it. So thanks for listening today. I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions, shoot me a message. And again, please get the book Radical Marketing by Sam Hill and Glenn Rifkin. It's still a gem. I appreciate you listening. Have a good one.